one of the few images many Australians have of Indonesia. Yet military parades reveal only one aspect of life in a country which has undergone dramatic economic transformation in the last decade. With a population of 180 million people, Indonesia's current economic growth rate is 3 to 4 times larger than that of Australia. And its new middle class is greater in size than the entire Australian population. Now, the world's 4th largest nation is entering a dynamic new era as it continues to make the most of its huge workforce and vast natural resources. After Brazil, Indonesia has the world's largest tropical rainforest. The prized hardwoods here earn around $4 billion a year for the country and have made Bob Hassan Indonesia's 10th wealthiest man. They call him the king of the forest, and he wants to log his realm for new mass plywood exports to Japan. Only 2 obstacles stand in the way: Japanese standards and international environmental concerns. For Hassan, the latter is the least of his problems.
So actually with all these problems, with all these shortcomings, I think we are much better than the other countries. Look at the United States. If you go to the Midwest, there are no trees there. You go to Australia, you fly from Sydney to Melbourne. What do you see below? No trees. The land is all red. The land is red. It's like on the planet Mars.
Francois Tomasoa also wants to change the face of Indonesia. He's come to the island of Lombok with a dream of building a tourist hotel. He wants for Lombok what already exists 40 kilometers away: Bali. It's Indonesia's international tourist showpiece, a robust foreign exchange earner. With the inbound dollars have come influences and cultural changes that don't sit happily with many Indonesians. For all that, neighbouring Lombok is still to be opened up. At his office in Jakarta, Francois is planning how he can get in on the ground floor. He knows, however, that if he's to succeed, he must take on the Indonesians of Chinese descent, who control the economy and have the bulk of the wealth.
We shouldn't let the economic gap between Chinese and Pribumis grow any bigger. We Pribumis are only using a small part of our potential. But if we do get involved in the economy, then it will grow even further.
Indonesia's Minister for Science and Technology is Baradin Yosef Habibie. He has his ambitions too.
Gimana itu sudah ya? Sekalian nggak ada masalah ya?
Nggak ada, Pak.
Jadi ini
jalan lancar.
Ini N250 mock-up yang kayu. Ini kapan selesai ya?
Selesainya pertengahan tahun ini.
Habibie's taking Indonesia headlong into the deep end of technology and international competition by setting up an aircraft industry.
Itu seluruh door termasuk tangganya kita yang buat. Ya. Semua ya.
In this highest of high-tech industries, Habibie has astonished everyone by getting a 35-seat commuter plane off the ground and into production in just 3 years.
Nanti kamu jadi tuli. Nanti istrimu bicara sesuatu kamu nggak ngerti. Benar. Kamu dari mana toh? Maluku? Dari Timur. Timur, dua-dua. Supaya benar-benar jadi orang Indonesia. Pahaminya campuran. Ya.
Rakhmat Chea is a senior aircraft designer at the IPTN factory. He's part of an elite. He's an engineer. In its rush toward development, Indonesia hasn't put great accent on social sciences. It's engineers and scientists who are encouraged by the government. Rakhmat has just learned about the ultimate incentive, an overseas scholarship. There's to be an exam for the best and brightest. If he passes, it will change his life.
This examination is a great chance for me. The technology of our company might be considered very modern, but only in Indonesia. It's nothing compared to the technology in other countries. My dream is to help introduce the technology of modern country to Indonesia. This is my chance.
Rakhmat is part of the highly educated and fiercely nationalistic new breed of Indonesians who've rallied behind Habibie's high-tech manifesto. Downtown Jakarta, a city built on the business acumen of the Indonesians of Chinese descent and on the receipt of massive oil and gas earnings amounting to around $7 billion a year. It's young entrepreneurs like Francois who are trying to broaden the country's economic base. And it's the country's hope that more like him can begin rivaling the success of Chinese Indonesians.
What the Chinese can do, we can surely do. I'm tired of these unpleasant conflicts. Why don't we become good rivals and good friends to better ourselves?
The disparity of wealth between Indonesians of Chinese descent and others has frequently led to upheaval. As recently as the 1970s, native Indonesians, called pribumis, vented their feelings in ugly riots against those of Chinese descent. Despite the curtailment of Chinese immigration in 1945, deep resentment still simmers. Many Chinese Indonesians now try to obscure their origins. Bob Hassan is one of these. The Forest King has come to Borobudur to promote an athletics event, believing that for Indonesia to better itself in sport or business, it must gain international experience. And for places like Borobudur to attract tourists to its famous ruins, it must get international exposure. Hassan has attracted athletes and attention to his Bob Hassan 10-kilometer run with his personal offer of $1 million prize money for a world record. One look at Bob Hassan's home is enough to know how he can afford to be so magnanimous. His business empire encompasses 90 companies. From appearances, athletics does seem to be an unusual interest, however, for him and his family. But for Indonesia, this family is unusual. Not only has Bob Hassan dropped his Chinese name, he's also converted to Islam and taken a pribumi wife.
The number of non-pribumis in Indonesia is not very large compared to the total population. In this respect, Indonesia is very different to its neighboring country, Malaysia. But because this small group controls the economy, it is very important for the strong to help the weak. If not, we will never narrow the gap between rich and poor, and we will never solve the ethnic conflict.
Indonesia consists of some 13,000 islands, and its population of 180 million is made up of some 300 different ethnic groups. On Lombok, the Sasaks were once ruled by the Hindus from Bali. Now, they're part of a predominantly Muslim country, and their quiet lives and unique culture are about to be changed forever by development. Seeking his share in this, Francois, the pribumi entrepreneur, has brought Eka as a translator and guide to help him in his first steps in finding a hotel site.
Duduk di sini kan kebanyakan Muslim. Adat kebiasaan mereka itu tidak seperti turis bertelanjang. Jadi mereka merasa tidak suka kalau ada turis yang telanjang, karena mereka itu tidak biasa melihat yang seperti itu.
Most of the island's population of 310,000 live along the coast, and most are distrustful of outsiders.
Selamat siang, Bu. Lagi buat apa ini, Bu?
Ini mau bahasa Indonesia sudah.
Oh.
Apa sudah tahu? Bu Nenek. Diambil bukan Nenek.
Oh, Nenek.
Ya, anaknya Bandung. Bilang dulu sudah. Bilang dulu.
Oh, termasuk
Daerah
tanah
dengan
desa.
saya beli? Oh, enggak ada.
Oh, jadi ini tanah negara begitu.
Iya. Ndek bau terbangun hotel itu? Ndek bau. Oh, enggak boleh hanya. Oh, jadi khusus kadun nelayan, Bang. Oh, ya khusus untuk nelayan aja.
Di sini khusus untuk nelayan begitu ya.
Beda dengan kamu juga. Oh, enggak boleh orang bilang.
Tidak dijual ya.
Despite the difficulties, Francois sees potential here. But so too have his Chinese-Indonesian rivals. One luxury hotel has already been completed. The tourists are attracted by promises of the exotic and the lure of an undiscovered hideaway. And in the hotel, they do hide, away from the locals, who are prevented from entering hotel grounds.
Oh, ini apa ini?
Oh, ini PT Pengembangan Pariwisata Lombok yang mempunyai proyek di sini.
Ya, ya.
Mereka mempunyai rencana bersama pemerintah daerah di sini dengan Raja Wali Group.
Oh, Raja Wali Group
Ya,
yang...
bekerja sama dengan putranya Bapak Presiden Soeharto.
Oh, ya, ya.
Jadi tanah ini khusus untuk PT Pengembangan Pariwisata Lombok saja.
Oh.
Tidak diizinkan, dibebaskan untuk yang lainnya. Yang bekerja sama dengan Raja Wali Group akan membangun hotel di daerah Tanjung Ali. Seperti di Bali dan Hawaii.
The involvement of President Suharto's family in business is not considered unusual or particularly untoward in Indonesia. But some residents have reportedly already been harassed